Luke Skywalker often holds a special place among the Jedi Masters of the galaxy in the history of the Order as a whole, known for having a much more worldly perspective on the Force and breaking away from the dogma of the Old Order before him in order to truly re-establish the Jedi as guardians of peace rather than dogmatic, politically motivated and charged soldiers of fortune that they ultimately came to be. His students are widely regarded as some of the most emotionally complex Jedi Knights from the history of the Order, returning to mindsets that were more reminiscent of the High Republic era than that of the Clone Wars era Jedi. Luke encouraged his knights to build social bonds with one another, get married, and have lives beyond just being Jedi Knights of the Order, and this allowed them to grow into incredibly powerful and uniquely mature individuals. Now that we have seen the return of Luke Skywalker in the book of Boba Fett, it's anticipated that he will play a significant role in the Star Wars galaxy going forward. We are left now to wonder if his on-screen counterpart is set to establish a new Jedi Order that has the same diversity and freedom, and if so, is he doomed to repeat the same mistakes as his predecessors, or whether he will follow his Legends counterpart and learn from the mistakes as he did. Unfortunately though, there is ample evidence to suggest that he might be following the same path as the failed Order did before him. So stick with us, weary acolytes of the galaxy, and let's discuss the evidence that Luke Skywalker is currently on the same path as the older Order of the Republic era, and what this would mean for him as well as what he has to do to correct this course and the evidence that we might be preparing to do so. Let's take a look at Luke Skywalker's teachings as seen in the book of Boba Fett with Grogu, and see if he seems to be making a lot of the same mistakes as his predecessors, or is course correcting the Jedi Order as a whole. Hopefully by the end of this video, we can have a more concrete idea of where Luke Skywalker is as a master and a teacher. In episode 6 of the book of Boba Fett, we see the most in-depth look at Luke Skywalker that we've had since the sequel trilogy, and we finally get our first look into his teaching practices as well as his habits, many of which seem very promising, but others are cause for concern. After teaching Grogu the basics of enhancing his agility and dexterity, he brings Grogu to his hut and offers him a choice between the way of the Jedi and the way of the Mandalorian. And this is one of the most troubling discoveries about Luke Skywalker and his new order that we've made as a fan base in recent weeks, as Luke ultimately forcing Grogu to choose could lead him down a dark path, or at least a darker path for the Jedi Order as a whole. But why exactly is this? This stark binary decision of one or the other not only seems to deviate from everything we know about Luke's order from Legends continuity, but seems to be more in line with the previous order of the Clone Wars Jedi and era of the Republic, at a time when right and wrong were a black and white dichotomy with one another, and there was no gray area at all to be seen as we see with Luke in Legends continuity. This absence of free thinking and strict adherence to a flawed system of morality was ultimately the flaw that led the downfall of the original Jedi Order, and a major reason why Darth Sidious was able to sneak in and destroy the Jedi Order using a lot of their own tools. Luke also illustrates the pathway ahead of Grogu if he were to choose the path of the Jedi, stating that if he chooses the way of the Jedi, he might never see Din Djarin again. And while he doesn't outright guarantee that Din will be entirely absent from Grogu's life, he does seem to emulate the same emotional disconnect that led Anakin down the pathway of the dark side, meaning that Luke is subscribing to the same fears as the old Jedi Order before him. Let's talk now briefly about Anakin. Anakin's separation from his mother and the Council's lack of willingness to properly handle the situation led to severe emotional problems that escalated into stifling his way of maturity, and Anakin's eventual fall to the dark side was a direct result of this. Yoda teaches Anakin to simply let go, to forgo attachments, and live a life of servitude to the Force itself, which seems to be Din Djarin's primary concern when it comes to Grogu's training. We are led to believe that Luke is meant to be better than this, offering his students emotional outlets and allowing them to feel their own way while being able to properly process their own emotional states, something that the old Jedi Order held in great fear. Based on Luke's unwillingness to fully explore the depth of Grogu's potential, he seems to show signs of making the same mistakes of the Jedi Order that occurred before him. If Luke continues down this pathway, then he runs the risk of encountering the same pitfalls that doomed the original Jedi practice, and this may have actually been a direct result of what we see occurs with him in The Last Jedi between Ben Solo, when he ultimately decides to activate his lightsaber in fear of the potential of Ben Solo. If Luke continues down this path, then he runs the risk of encountering the same pitfalls that doomed the original Jedi practice, leading to the creation of Lord Vader and the rise of the Empire. But luckily for us, there is still time for Luke to change his methods and adapt his teaching style before the height of his order ultimately occurs. As a great master, learning is part of the teaching process, and the best masters refer to themselves as eternal students. Is it possible that Luke's imminent failure with Grogu is going to be the catalyst for his reformation of his philosophies that will eventually give way to a new, improved, and stronger Jedi Order that Luke Skywalker was always meant to found, righting the wrongs of the previous iteration of the Order? Is it possible that Luke's imminent failure with Grogu is the best thing that could have ever happened to the young Jedi Master? We get a few hints at what happened to Luke Skywalker's order during the sequel trilogy, albeit the story is predominantly told through flashbacks and dialogue between characters without being fully shown on screen. Although we know that the future of Luke Skywalker does not lead to him being a perfect master, we do not know that he is teaching the philosophy that a Jedi should not form attachments with the beings around them, and this may actually be course corrected by Grogu himself, as Ahsoka even says that forming attachments are dangerous, but maybe Luke comes to the realization that these attachments are what make the Jedi the best versions of themselves that they can be. If Grogu leaves Luke's order in the coming years, or even now, be it to walk the path of the Mandalorian, or to follow his own journey similar to that of Ahsoka Tano so many years before him, then he might have the worldview of a seasoned individual with experience as both a Jedi youngling as well as a Mandalorian foundling. If Luke and his regurgitation of the previous Jedi practices drives Grogu away from his newly found Jedi Order, then it could serve two distinct purposes. The first, as we mentioned, is the impact it would have on both characters, with Luke's reevaluation of what it means to be a Jedi and Grogu's growth into an individual. But the other is that could also allow Grogu to survive the inevitable fall of Luke's order and ensure that he continues to play an integral role in the fabric of the galaxy for centuries to come, even though he is not featured at all in the sequel trilogy. But these are just thoughts I had while watching the episode, and Luke Skywalker seeming to fall into the same mistakes of the previous iteration of the Jedi Order when concerning attachments. And again, in Legends continuity, Luke Skywalker actually actively encouraged these attachments. So is Luke Skywalker making the same mistakes as the previous iteration of the Jedi? I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings on this in the comments down below. Do you think that this is simply the result of Luke being a brand new Jedi Master, and that Grogu will ultimately teach him a great deal about becoming a more proficient and understanding Jedi Master? Also, what are your thoughts on Luke Skywalker wanting Grogu to choose between the path of a Mandalorian and the path of a Jedi? Do you think that Luke Skywalker's order ultimately fails because he teaches the same dogma as the old Jedi? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button, and may the Force be with you.